We're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about disruption. I'm going to take you back to 1991. Who here has ever been on a skateboard? Skateboard? Anybody? Skateboard? All right, remember 1991? We were all very cool in 1991 with our skateboards. But there was something else that was happening in 1991. The web. Now, what was Web 1.0? What was happening in the beginning of the internet? Well, in the very early days, internet was very much like a billboard. It was just a sign, right? We had signs up outside, and we had signs on the internet. We had information being sent out to people. I was a big Lego fan, I admit. Maybe that's why I went into startups. Get your kids to play with Lego. They will be great startup entrepreneurs. And we had websites like these with bits of pieces of things, and people were telling us things. And they were saying, hello, we're here. Hello, world, through the internet, we exist. And that's what we call Web 1.0. And then came Web 2.0. Well, with Web 2.0, there was a little bit of give and take, two-way communication. The site was not just a sign, it actually had a back end. We unlocked e-commerce. We created communities. Zappos in the United States in 2008 had a beautiful, you can see how beautiful the catalog is, where you could click through and buy shoes, and they would be delivered to your door. But yes, you're getting there. So now the information from the warehouse is being delivered to the web, but it's still very one-sided. The company is telling the world what it wants to say, and it's saying, okay, come buy, click here, you can buy. And then it started to get really exciting, because in Web 3.0, the web became part of the businesses. The consumers and the businesses and the two sides of this equation started to work together. And at that point, not only did more functionality come online, but new ways of business were happening in ways that created new business. If I was selling online in Web 2.0, I had a new way to sell. But in Web 3.0, I have new things to sell. I have new ways to sell. The way I'm engaging with my customers is entirely different. And I'm just going to talk about that a little bit to make sure we all understand it, because that's where the disruption really, really happens. If we look at Airbnb or Uber or any of these new technologies that require the supply and demand to start talking to each other online, we create new demand. We create new kinds of supply. Things happen completely differently. And if we look at, for example, something we're all very well aware of, which is, let's say, travel, online travel, Expedia, Travelocity, et cetera, Priceline. Any of you who remember what travel was like in the 80s, and then in the 90s, as you had more access, and then today, where I was on a flight yesterday with people who never would have occurred to travel 20 years ago. And now they can access travel. And those who are providing travel services are creating whole new ways of engaging with people who want to travel, and of doing pricing, and of figuring out where they should go and how they should do it. Alas, freight, shipping, is still at 1.0 in many, many cases. Many of the websites that are out there for the freight industry are telling the world, hey, we're here. We know there's an internet. There is an internet, and we're going to put ourselves out there. But not yet have we figured out how to engage in a two-way dialogue, and how to bring the supply chain and the demand together in the cloud. how to make sure that as people want to move different things at different times, that's in real time changing the supply and how it works. Now, what does this mean to our industry? Well, it means, for one thing, that there's no price transparency. Some people might think that's good, but it's just not really going to last. It also means that there's a 30% spread in price, and people don't really trust what they see, are always negotiating, are always trying to push down. 3 to 4 days wait for freight quotes. Your end users who are waiting for freight quotes, which is really should be very, very simple to get a freight quote. Containers are moved every single day. Why does it take 3 to 4 days to know how much it will cost to move from point A to point B? Very high touch, very expensive to run freight companies and to bring the goods and the services to the end supplier. And 83% of the importers don't even know where their shipments are all the time. A lot of questions. So here we've seen a lot of the world move from Web 1.10 to 2.0 to 3.0, and in freight, we're still stuck a little bit. Now, this is just a chart. This is actually a chart that my company created of the spread of container pricing. And as you can see, if I need to know at any given time what something's going to cost me, I can't really know, I can guess. But change is in the air, which is good. And, well, there are a lot of good reasons that this is going to happen, no matter what. One thing is that a lot of the things you guys have been talking about all morning, big changes, catastrophes, different trade events and things that are happening, require everybody to be more agile. Everybody feels that, we know that, we need to be more agile. And I know it's hard when you're carrying a ship around on your back, right? To be agile, right? It's easy for me. All I have to do is, write some code and things happen, right? Whereas you guys have, besides large amounts of dollars in bags or euros in bags, you also have these huge ships you have to carry around everywhere you go. But still, flexibility and agility are going to have to come. Price savings, cost savings. When Coca-Cola moved online and moved to online web-ready supply chain, they were able to reduce their cost of sale by 85%. It's cheaper to sell. It's cheaper to sell online. It's cheaper to sell when you're integrated in the supply chain of the person who's buying from you. They don't need to step out and negotiate and contract and fax and Excel spreadsheets. It's all integrated, and everything you have to provide is in sync with what they need to consume. And it's happening. Millennials are online. In the United States, before buying a car, a millennial will have 75 contact points with the web before they ever go to a store, before they ever look at a car. They're looking at reviews, they're looking at cost comparisons, they're looking at safety information, they're asking their friends what they bought, they're looking at pictures, right? This is happening. Okay, and sitting here, sometimes it felt this morning a little bit that some of the people in this room are a little bit far away from actually where this is being consumed, but I heard that you're not, that you're open, that you're listening to see how do we close these gaps and make sure that what we're providing and the decisions we're making are actually fully in touch with where the people who are consuming the services and who need to put their goods on the ships are. And leaders are gearing up. As a matter of fact, in a survey that we just completed, 50% of carriers have a transformation role in their company. They've hired somebody to figure this out. And that's good, because it's not a simple question. This needs to be figured out. 40% already have public digital strategies So shipping companies are standing up and saying, here's what we're doing online, here's how we're going online. And many have outsourced their transformation, and many are bringing it inside, but there's still a long way to go. So why is it so hard if everybody else has already made the move? And are actually, I mean, I think Web 5.0 is almost, 4.0 is almost on its way. So what makes it so hard? We like to think of the 3 anti-horsemen, but I'm going to do them backwards if you don't mind. Because technology is the easy part. Writing code is actually the easy part. Creating levels of technology that can do what we need to do is just about telling smart people what to do, telling them to sit down and write the code, figuring out how that code can connect. And it's been done so many times, it's getting easier and easier and easier to do that. But what's really hard is data. So bringing together data from all the different sources. At Freightos, we concentrate on pricing data from the freight industry. And we've spent, I'd say, about 6 years now just getting to the point where all of the freight information, all of the pricing information we have is in the same format, and we're comparing apples to apples, and we can see it across all time. So getting the data that you have to be useful for you, the data that's out there in the businesses, and aligning it, that's going to take some time, and that's a key thing here. But also the culture. Also an understanding that in the same way that none of us understood what Uber was going to be. I mean, really, the thought of I will click one button on my phone and someone I don't know will come and pick me up. And I won't even have to talk to them. And they will have my credit card. And that credit card information and that invoice will go straight into my expense report, right? I have absolutely no reason to ever rent a car again. And the number of people who are using Uber is not something anybody could have imagined. And what's going to happen in our industry? What's going to happen in freight? What's going to happen in shipping? We don't really know. But some of the time we're afraid. We fear that transparency in pricing, in availability and capacity could harm us. And the truth is, I think it can. It will harm anyone who's not ready. But that's why we have to get ready, and we have to figure out how to use this to propel our own businesses ahead, and to try to imagine the things that nobody else can imagine yet, because you have the knowledge. And you can imagine what it would be like to know exactly when and where Coca-Cola wants to move its goods. Freightos is a company that's going to do its small little piece of trying to disrupt. Come from a background of startups and technology, and we're looking for the ways to create a backbone, a digital backbone for the freight industry, so that the people like you who have the ideas of how to move it forward can use that digital backbone to do so. And what does that mean? Well, we've been bringing on anyone in the industry who's ready to play onto our platforms, from carriers and freight forwarders through to BCOs and businesses. What we did is we started with a layer, a backbone for rate management. Day one was actually helping freight forwarders manage all of their rates. Very simple SaaS product that allows them to know in 30 seconds exactly how much transport is going to cost from A to B. And then we brought on the carriers, and they allowed them to publish directly rates into those systems, publish them straight to the freight forwarders. And then we brought on the BCOs and the shippers and allowed them to access that as well. It's that simple, taking those 3 layers, multimodal across ocean, air, train, and trucking, and created a technology that brings together the data and puts the information into people's hands very, very quickly. What we did with this, and was launched last year, is to create a public marketplace where BCOs and smaller shippers can find instant pricing to move their goods, the same as you would on FedEx or DHL for packages. If you need to move 10 containers, you can go online, type in origin, destination, including pickup, delivery, anything it is that you need to do, and get prices from up to 50 different freight service providers. If you're shipping by air, you can put in your pallets, et cetera, and see, compare air to ocean to express within seconds. Okay, and this is really just making it very, very accessible. Now, if you want to take that one step further, now imagine being able to do that in the context of cross-border B2B trading, or having that option embedded inside ERPs, where instantly you have access to freight pricing and rates from all the best forwarders and carriers. And not only is it pricing, but actually the booking happens online. I've chosen my freight forwarder, or I've chosen directly the carrier. CMA, CGM publish rates on our marketplace, so a freight forwarder can come, a BCO or a small shipper, for example, a shipper who's shipping from China to Los Angeles in order to sell on Amazon, can click and actually book online. From the comfort of their home at 12 p.m., they can book their containers online. And the carriers and freight forwarders receive these orders and service them and give full track and trace back to those same small companies. So just to let your mind go, right? You suddenly have people who never could ship before are able to ship. Think of Uber. You had people who could never drive a cab before are suddenly driving cabs. What change, what impact, what is that going to do? This is all done on this backbone where we've given also over 1,000 different freight providers digital information and pricing information that they're using with their own customers to be quicker, to be able to analyze and see exactly what they need to see, and to service their own customers very, very quickly. And all of this information, all of this data is now sitting formatted beautifully so that we understand exactly what's there. And this past year, we've worked with the Baltic Exchange to publish FBX, which is the Freightos Baltic Exchange Index, containerized index published daily to give information about how much a container costs anywhere in the world on any given day. And this is using over 1 billion data points from our database. A word about Freightos. Well, I mean, it's just a regular startup. We actually don't know enough about freight, and so we come in and we make lots of mistakes, but it's because we don't know what we're doing that we dare to go a little bit crazy. But where we find the best things happen is actually where we bring the very naive, very technical, very Web 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and 6.0 thinking, and we work together with the industry to understand what change actually needs to happen. I'm going to leave 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes, for questions. If we have any questions.
Any questions? Yes, there's a gentleman with his hand up at the back, or were you taking a picture? Were you asking a question, or was that a selfie? So let me ask you a very quick question, Ruthie.
Sure.
If we look at Amazon Prime, everything is, you book a time, everything is delivered on time. And the reason I know that is that every Friday afternoon I work from home. And the neighbors seem to know this because I just spend, instead of writing articles, I'm spending the whole Friday afternoon just taking in parcels for the neighbors from Amazon Prime. So they've decided that Friday afternoon the neighbors is going to be in, that's the time, and they all get delivered at that time. With the freight, Freightos itself has done a survey. 2/3 of sea freight arrives late, which is quite an incredible statistic. If we adopt these electronic marketplaces, can that actually speed up the delivery of freight? Because at the moment, you ask people, when will something be delivered in terms of freight, a container? This could be 8 weeks, could be 10 weeks, could be 12 weeks. It's just so much up in the air. Can you use data to guarantee delivery dates?
Well, we can provide the platform, but you guys have to actually do that. Right now, on our platform, someone can come on and actually book a guaranteed vessel sailing with the carrier. And they choose the date. They have to commit to having the gate in, to being there by gate in. And then all of the information, as soon as they click book, is actually passed electronically through from the BCO to, and we're talking about small BCOs. I understand that when Apple does this, they get it all through right away. But we're talking about anyone able to send all of their information with a click of a button. And then all of the information from the providers, the service providers, is sucked back into the system, including the status and tracking, and it's shared amongst all the service providers. So I think that technically it's not a problem. And I think also that the service providers can do it. They know when things are being picked up and when they're being delivered. That's never the question. What does happen, though, is that suddenly when people have visibility to dates and to movement, then people have the incentive to make it happen. I think one of the biggest complaints that people will have, and this is because they're naive small shippers, is they'll say, you told me my container was going to be delivered on Tuesday and it's not here. And sometimes the service providers say, so, right? And they say, well, then I'm not going to book with you again. And so what we've seen is an increasing level of service where those providers who have digital backbones and can actually deliver on time, say what they're going to do and do what they say, actually get repeat business. I think we certainly have to end up here, but I think what I would say is that disruption can actually be a lot of fun. It's really a great world out there where the opportunities and the opportunities are endless. And what's really most exciting is when different people partner together to make it happen. And what I see in this room is a lot of the different people who actually have the abilities to not look at what we have now and how we're going to survive it, but actually where is it going to go and where we're going to take it. And I just want to wish us all a great journey because it's a lot of fun. Thank you.